Hey, Mariner fans, welcome to episode 1 of Monday Mojo. We're excited to have you here. Our first guest, ever heard of the man named Dave Sims, voice of the Mariners?
That's who we had on. He's a great guy. Honestly, like if you guys know me, I am an optimist and I am always looking for the good in things. And every year, the guy's like, oh yeah, this is our year. We're going to make the playoffs. That was up until last year when we really actually were able to understand what Jerry Dipoto has been doing and seeing what his plan has been, which is to build a team that isn't built around a superstar. And the Mariners have done that in the past, obviously with Ichiro and then with Felix and then with Robinson Cano and obviously Ken Griffey Jr. He did have a little bit more supporting cast who weren't up to the levels that he was at, when A-Rod was extremely young, and obviously he had Edgar. But in the main point, the Mariners have been built around a team with one superstar and then trying to build around that.
Chris, remind me, and sorry to cut you off. Remind me how long Jerry Dipoto's been on as our GM?
Since 2015. And so when he can't come on, he said he had a 5 to 6 year plan. And that's when he wanted to get to the playoffs. And his plan was going to be to try and empty out the big paychecks and the guys that we had on big contracts, aka Robinson Cano. That was the biggest one because we simply didn't need him. We weren't contending and we were paying just an absurd amount. And so, I mean, what is one of the best deals he's done so far that I hope is going to pan out is getting rid of Robinson Cano and Edwin Diaz and getting Justin Dunn and Jared Kelenic in return, and both from the Mets, obviously. But he's building the farm system, which we had one of the worst ones when he came in, and this is last year. We're now ranked number 2. And the guys that are going to be coming up, I hope that they make one hell of an impact on this team. That's the plans, and that's what Jerry's got brewing.
Well, I want to challenge you on something, Chris, and any Mariner fan that's listening to this now that has been following, the team for as long as we have. We're 26-year-old guys from the area, so we're born and raised and bred to be Mariner fans, but it's of course we've had our fair share of blowout years, right? It's been miserable. Why turn on the TV and watch a game in the first place? For the most part, I mean, during the era of Robinson Cano and Nelson Cruz and Edwin Diaz, what's perhaps even more frustrating than watching a 40-win season is watching a 75-win season and being 1 or 2 games out of the wild card. That said, even in the 2020 season, as short as it was, and Dave Sims says this in the interview that we just had with him, but I mean, mathematically, we were still in the in contention. So, and part of what we asked Dave about in this interview, you guys will hear is realistically, at what point are we going to stop scratching the surface and actually break through and make the playoffs? And in a perfect world, not even make a wild card, but win the damn division.
Yeah.
So what I'm curious about is why all of a sudden, with Jerry Dipoto's initial plan, bring on Robbie, bring on Nelson Cruz, Edwin Diaz, all those big names that are no longer with us anymore. Do we really think this plan of starting from the ground up?
From the Mariners' standpoint, if you follow this team, even from the mid-2000s, they've always tried to sign the big free agent, whether it was like Richie Sexton or Sean Figgins, some of them spend a lot of money, and they just completely flat out just did not live up to that contract. But I think it's just cool to see something different. And you saw that with the Chicago Cubs, when I forget their GM's name. I think it's Theo. Yeah. So he, when he got to the Cubs, he broke everything up. He started from the ground up and got all these great prospects like Javi Baez, Rizzo. He started from the bottom, and then you saw them win that championship. And I think, and you saw with the Astros too, as much as, we hate the Astros and all that cheating, they did have some great prospects, so
I got a buddy from Houston that's not going to be too happy with this episode, but anyway.
I mean, they deserve it, but I think, but I think it's that way. That's how you got to do it in baseball. Is it's a long process, but in the end, it's so worth it. And so I think I have total faith in what Jerry's doing.
Of course. And Max, what you said, you misspoke. Jerry didn't bring on Robinson Cano. He inherited him.
And that was the Z era. Huh?
Yeah.
That was
so we got Robbie in 2013.
Yeah.
So, and also when we had Edwin Diaz in our farm system, he was not a closer. Edwin Diaz was a starter. Jerry DePoto saw the potential he had as a closer. So he switched his role, brought him to the majors as a closer, where he dominated for that first year. And he was able to build his potential, his value. And so we used that value to throw him into that trade with Robinson Cano when the Mets needed it most because they were pushing for the playoffs. So we were able to then trade rape him and get Kelenic and Justin Dunn in return when Robinson Cano, fast forward to now, just got boned again for steroids. And Edwin Diaz has just fallen off the map to where he doesn't exist anymore. Like those guys they just don't matter anymore. But these guys that we have, Justin Dunn and Jared Kelenic, who got into that trade, they do have something going on and they have the potential. And so, and for a lot less money. So, I mean, that's Jerry DePoto doing what he does. And he traded the big name, and then the guy who he developed into a closer when he was initially a starter. And then he used him as trade bait to get the two guys that he wanted to continue as building pieces for his plan. And that's what he's been able to do. And so that's something that a lot of people haven't really gotten a full grasp on. When they think of the Mariners and they think of the ownership and the management, they think of the old Mariners in the Z era, when we were using our farm system as trade bait. And we weren't developing them, but that's not the case anymore. Jerry's been developing these guys. He's been drafting them and keeping them into the system because he knows which pieces he wants to keep. And he continues to develop in a smart way, players such as Austin Nola, which he didn't probably have he didn't fit into our long-term plan, but we developed him into a pretty damn good player last year and used him when a team needed that type of player. The San Diego Padres, for their playoff push, they needed him. So they gave us Ty France and Taylor Trammell, two young guys with high potential.
Two young guys that, frankly, I haven't even heard of yet. I mean, I know that I'm very aware that we have one of, arguably the best farm system and exciting guys coming up in the next couple of years. But it just goes to show, I mean, these names are getting taught, these 19-year-old kids to 19 to 22-year-old kids younger than us are just kind of popping up, and a lot of excitement about it and about them. So that said, we're in for hopefully two or three very exciting years in which we make the push, in which we so deserve.
In the interview, you guys will hear this as well. Dave is pretty much from New York, born in Philly, from what he said, and then did a lot of his work in New York when he started as a broadcaster. And the fans behind New York, right? They have this thing about them where they expect their team to be in the playoffs every single year. And the fans hold that expectation, and they're not shy about it either. They will let the players know how they feel with booing them and getting pissed off at them in their own goddamn stadium. And that's something that the Mariners fans, we really don't have behind us. For example, when Boston and New York come to town, it's not a home game for the Mariners, not even damn close. It's fucking filled with Yankees fans. It's filled with Boston fans. And
talk about the Blue Jays too. Blue Jays.
For real.
Well, that game when Felix was pitching on the mound, and they were all chanting for the Blue Jays, but Felix ended up dominating. He struck, I forget who he struck out, and I think it was in the 7th inning or something, but he came off the mound. This is my house. This is my house. That's the passion that Felix has had that we've been able to see. Obviously, sucks to say this, but like the Mariners did shit to Felix, and I feel bad. I feel bad for the guy. I thank him for everything he did for us. But
I tell you,
as I go back, that's I'm thanking him for what he did for us as a Mariners fan.
Absolutely.
But a Yankees fan, they have that guy, and they don't ever reach playoffs. There's no goddamn way they
absolutely
thank you to him. Not a damn thing. And so that's the kind of thing that as Mariners fans, we gotta hold these guys accountable. We can't just ditch the bandwagon when they're sucking. I know they've been sucking ass since 2001, But we gotta get behind them. We gotta show them that we care, and that's what I kind of want to help out throughout this podcast. Is I want to get these guys on board, and I want to get them
Absolutely,
excited, and then I want to. We gotta hold our team to the expectations that we want.
absolutely. That said, as you guys can tell, there's going to be a lot that we're going to cover throughout the duration of this podcast, but I want to share with you guys what the conversation that we had with Dave Sims, because he had a lot to say. And like Chris said, us Mariner fans love to be an optimist wherever possible, but Dave is very much a realist and has some pretty good insight in where he sees this team going. So give it a listen. Frankly, today, going to spend some time just talking baseball, no real agenda. As Chris probably told you, we're starting up a podcast, and you're a hell of a first guest.
Well, I appreciate that. Looks like you guys have a nice setup.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's most thanks to our guy E-Pup. He's going to be doing the producing. He is actually in Las Vegas right now, working at a news station there. So we're fortunate to have his skill set pretty much already
There you go.
up and running.
Yeah.
So that's huge.
Tell you what, it's you got to have somebody who knows what the hell they're doing.
Yeah.
So what's been keeping you busy during the off season? What have you been up to?
I did a couple of games in December. I've been doing podcasts up to Wazoo. I've been a lot of guys and some friends of mine and guys I'm meeting like you.
Yeah.
And that's been a lot of fun, working out a lot, and basically just following the quarantine rules, man. Staying close to home. I'm in Manhattan.
Yep.
And there's no social scene, if you will. I mean, the only social stuff you get to do is on Zoom and
Yep.
FaceTime. So it's different. So I think the biggest huge saving grace. Yeah, my wife's here. My youngest son is here. I got the treadmill. I got the Peloton, and that's basically it, man. Good. Like today, it's rainy and cloudy in New York. So, but when you get the good days and some nice sunshine, go walk in Central Park for a couple hours. That's always been a blast.
Well, you're all too used to the rain and cloud here, and we're both all three of us are born and raised from Seattle. So, yeah. With spring training right around the corner, though, when are you heading out?
I'm not going to Arizona.
Right.
Although I got my second COVID shot yesterday.
Nice.
I want no part of I'm in that age group. I want no part of Arizona.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to Seattle on the 13th, and I'll do about 4 or 5 telecasts from Root Sports.
Yep.
From their studios over in Bellevue.
Right on. Well, Dave, what are we most excited about this year?
Well, can the young guys let's see them mature. I mean, Evan White, I just was looking at his numbers. He had a better second half. He did hit well at home. He won a Gold Glove. He's one of the best fielding first basemen I've ever seen.
Yep.
So he's got that going for him.
Yep.
But I mean, I want to see if Shed Long can hit. Can Dylan Moore continue what he did last year? J.P. Crawford, shortstop, Gold Glove.
Absolutely.
Can he hit? Murph's back behind the dish. That's cool. Kyle Lewis won the Rookie of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
Seager in his last, in his final hurrah here. Hopefully he can go out with a bang. Hopefully Haniger's back to where he was a couple 3 years ago. That'd be huge. He was batting a 2-hole today. And then pitching wise, with Paxton back, I was telling somebody earlier, you got to give me 30, 35 starts.
Yep.
You just can't get hurt again.
No.
Line drives, please catch them.
Right.
When they come back through the box, you got to catch them. Not with your glove, not your forearm. Great guy. Good to have him back. Marco, can he continue to be, a lead dog?
Mm-hmm.
Sheffield was impressive last year. Dunn, can he make the adjustment? So, I've seen the best over-under projection I've seen to this point. This thing's bleeding through. Best over-under projection I've seen so far, 74 wins. Okay. I'd like to think it'll be a little bit better than that. I think the division is such that the Angels are going to swing it, they're going to score some runs. The pitching, they're not going to be able to stop anybody. Yep. I don't like their pitching at all. Oakland they always seem to find a way, but they've lost some key components. Yep. Texas, they got their issues. And then Houston, I was telling these guys earlier, still they got Bregman, Altuve, Correa, Gurriel, and Brantley. That's 5 studs in your lineup.
Absolutely.
no Verlander. Greinke knows how to pitch, and I got a question mark about the rest of their pitching. But they got my friend and one of the great managers of all time, Dusty Baker. So, I mean, they're still a team to beat in the division.
Absolutely. And forgive me, Chris and Evan, for kind of asking all the questions here, but it leads me to my next question, Dave. We were doing our research, and you look at, obviously the young guys coming up in our farm system are going to be phenomenal. And, going through the teams and seeing who they have in store. I mean, most of the teams out there, they have 3 real decent guys that are in the top 100 prospect list, but we were going through ours and I think we counted 6 or 7. So, I mean, with Jerry DiPoto's strategy finally coming together and making itself visible, I mean, are we where we want to be on the timeline here? Because obviously the boys are hungry for a playoff berth, we're
no idea. Oh
yeah,
my God.
absolutely. So what do you think on that?
I'm as excited as anybody to see Kelnick play.
Yeah.
I think it's realistic to think that if he's not with us day one, it'll be shortly thereafter.
Mm-hmm.
Julio, I'm not expecting to see him here, but you know what? I love it when guys break out and break the mold. The guy, he hit 600 during the spring. How do you leave him down there? Logan Gilbert sounds like he is like a hell of a stud.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see it. I mean, I think I saw an inning or 2 last year. So I'm basically going on what the reports say.
Yep.
And I always tell people, he says, well, we got this guy down, on the farm that I said, I've been fortunate enough for going into my 15th year on Mariner baseball. Mm-hmm. Until that dude gets up here and starts rocking it, then I'll get nuts. I ain't going to get nuts over somebody I haven't seen. This is not a faith-based business. It's about production. It's about results. So you can flip through, a book and it says, hey, he's going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread. And all of a sudden, here comes that 3-2 breaking ball that he wasn't looking for, and he can't handle it. I mean, so get them up here and let them get their feet wet and see what happens.
Yeah.
But it is promising. It is promising. I do definitely ride with that.
Yep.
One question I got for you, Dave, is as you were saying a second ago, it's been brutal, right? We were hungry for a playoff win, and you of everybody, I mean, as fans, when we're watching the game, seeing the Mariners get blown out and get it handed to them, we have the option of turning off the TV and going and do something else.
A luxury, right?
A luxury. But you have to sit through it. And obviously that's got to be tough. But then there's certain games where back in, let's take it 2016, when we came back against the San Diego Padres. And I was on a plane that game from Arizona, and I had spotty Wi-Fi. I was reloading my phone because I saw that we were making a move with Sean O'Malley doing this thing, Daeho Lee coming in clutch.
Unreal.
What was that like?
That was such a rush because I even remember saying, all right, boys, let's start climbing the hill, see what happens.
Yep.
And man, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Nickel, dime, bang, boom, boom, bang. And I was like, damn, we're right back in this thing. And then once the momentum got, dude, it was, it just pulled the damn brakes, man.
Yeah.
Pull the plug, boom. And I don't know, was it this offseason, maybe last offseason, I watched that highlight, and it still is it's an unbelievable rush.
Yeah.
It really is. And it just, and I think that was the year we got that in game 161. Nelly hits that home run in the 7th inning, tied at 7-7. I'm thinking, hey, we win Saturday night, we win Sunday, we can make the playoffs, and then we can lose that game Saturday night. But that was, I was looking, as Mr. Enberg used to always tell me, David, where are your blowout notes? Just in case. And I was ready to go deep into all the blowout notes and any kind of anecdote to take away from the game. And next thing you know, we had a game. So that's his life doing games here.
So curious, you say blowout notes. I've never thought about that, but as you're broadcasting, you guys have those set aside for in a situation when they're getting blown out. What else can you talk about? And that,
wow, yeah. I mean, every day I'm in the clubhouse, I talk to some, many guys. Hey, what up? What do you got? Hey, what happened last night? What do you think about that? So I carry, matter of fact, I carry one of these bad boys around. If you see me in pictures or anything, I usually have a book like this, and I've got little things that little trigger words or lines that reminded me of a conversation. And then stuff that you see that's going on, on the macro level in the game in baseball. So there's always stuff to talk about. But some seasons, man, it's like you're into the blowout notes in the second inning, and it's like, dude, I hope I can make this last another 6-7 innings.
Back when we had Unieski Betancourt and Jose Lopez.
Oh yeah,
wow. Yeah.
I was watching a highlight the other day actually of Adam Jones's first hit in the MLB. Obviously that was with the Mariners, and Uni was rounding first, and he got to third base. And I was just thinking to myself, that is a throwback. That's a name I hadn't seen in a long time, but. I mean, those are the kind of guys I remember growing up and watching.
Yep.
That Adam Jones trade is our version of Brock for Brolio. Not a good one.
Nope.
That's an understatement.
When we released Poppy, I mean, we had him, and I remember. I'm curious. Have you seen the? It's a 6-part documentary by SB Nation.
I've seen it. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
it's good.
Amazing.
They did a nice job.
Phenomenal job. I've watched it multiple times, and a couple of things I got out of that. But another one with Jay Buhner and his blurping. Did you ever hear about that?
I don't know if I've seen it. I think I might have seen the headline. I don't think I clicked on it yet.
I think you had mentioned something to this about me, Chris.
So Jay Buhner has this hidden talent, which I learned from the documentary.
I have to look that up. So
it was called
Buhner.
And it was burping and vomiting on command. And
it sounds like something he would do.
That's what I've been told. And in the middle of the game, he was like, "I'm gonna burp," and he's in right field, and Kevin Mitchell is in left field at the time, and he looks over, he sees Buhner getting sick, and he goes, "Oh God!" He starts getting sick, and then Griffey, he looks over to his right, sees Kevin Mitchell getting sick, to his left, Buhner getting sick. All of a sudden, in the middle of the game, all three Mariners outfielders are throwing up.
I gotta call Junior on that one. Ask Junior about blurping.
Oh. Yeah, that's interesting.
Wow. I hadn't heard that one.
Yeah, that was like one of the funniest things I had seen, because with the history of the Mariners and what SB Nation went through, obviously that documentary wasn't on the all the great things that they've done, because we haven't. But there's so many little stories about Mariners players doing those funny little things, and it's just kind of goes to show like the
human side,
the character.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was gonna say it just
go ahead.
It sounded like stuff we were doing sophomore year in college.
Dave, I on the topic of macro kind of trends going on in baseball. I mean, look, the Kevin Mathers situation, not much else has to be said about it. It's frustrating.
I'll say.
So with Kevin Mathers, obviously it's the Mariners being in the spotlight, but not in a positive way. And that's never obviously the good thing, but with the team that we have and the leadership that we have, especially Marco, and that's one thing I don't think the fans have really realized is what he does bring to the clubhouse. And and I think that the clubhouse that we have with Marco and Jared and James and all these guys that have passion and they actually want to win, they have every right to be mad, and I'm on their side 100% without a doubt. But I think that they're the guys that can turn this into a positive, and they can be like, you know what, we're going to come together and we're going to show these owners that they're not making a good move if they're keeping us down on purpose. We're going to prove it to them. And what is that something that you've seen kind of?
Well, again, I'm not down there. I'm still in New York City, but from what I've read and heard, I think that's pretty much spot on. I mean, and I would expect nothing less, to be honest with you. Knowing those guys, I would think that there's a lot of feelings hurt, and you gotta, there was a lot of insulting comments that were made, and so that's gonna, as they say in baseball, that's gonna give you the red ass, and I think that that's gonna put them in position that further motivation. Not that they needed it, because you got to compete against the best in the world every day, but that's a little bit extra in the fuel tank for sure.
Well, that's what I was curious about too. I mean, does this serve? Obviously, it's going to be discouraging, and there's going to be feelings hurt, and they are hurt. But again, we go back to how hungry this organization is just for some recognition in the playoffs and in a ring down the line. I mean, is this, knowing, a lot of the guys, you've spoken with them, right? I mean, are they going to take this and turn it into something like, you know what, we're going to prove everyone wrong. We're going to focus on our own business.
No question. I mean, and it's the only way you can go. I mean, you can't let something like that you can't let something like that beat you down.
No.
I mean, it's going to inspire, it's going to piss you off, and it's going to make you want to, I'll show you. Hey, that's where they're going. I mean, you got to remember, we're, the four of us are pretty competitive. And if you put the four of us, our competitive juices, put it together, it's not going to even come close to matching what those guys at this level of professional athlete, the drive, the determination that goes with the talent and the will and the balls and the ability to say, really, all right. And then they got a counter for it. And that's, I think that's, I think these guys are going to be fine. I look forward to, see, that's the thing that's so bad about, obviously one of a gajillion things about the pandemic. Obviously, we're sorry for people who have lost lives and sick and family and all that kind of stuff. But normally I would be down there already and I would have been able to answer this question. I might not be able to have done this podcast with you, but I would be able to answer that question because I would, by this time, I would have been around the clubhouse a couple, 3 times, just like, yo, what do you got? Hey, what are your thoughts on this? And I know a lot of those guys, and even the young guys. If you're a young guy and you come to this organization and then you hear this, you're going, really? Damn. Yeah. Come on now. So there's some work to be done, to be sure.
And that's like another thing with a young guy wanting to come to the organization. That's what we want. And it was really cool seeing Pax come back. And with James being able to pitch, obviously, in the playoffs, and then obviously learn from Garrett Cole, from CC Sabathia, and all the other.
Andy Pettit. Yeah, it was unbelievable.
Unbelievable. And so with him, well, first with Jerry trading for Sheffield, getting him, and a year and a half later, now we got James back and we still have Sheffield. So James comes back with all this knowledge that he can now help teach to Marco, to Chef, to Justin, and all the other guys. What kind of impact do you think that he's going to be able to?
Well, it's got to be positive. I mean, we had him on today's Sunday, so Tuesday, Wednesday last week, he did a Zoom get together with the media, and he talked about that. He talked about, hey, when he was with the Yankees, first of all, that game he pitched in the playoffs was just balls to the wall. It was just tremendous. And you could see, I've never seen him so determined. It was like an FU written on his face. Here it is. You can't beat me. So you got to love that. Yeah. And so he brings that fire. But it was interesting listening to him talk about the relationship and the sharing of the trading of knowledge and information and the stuff that he got from the guys you mentioned, but Andy Pettit and CC, and just being been here in New York and being in that atmosphere, because those guys, they're going every year. They know pretty much they're going to the playoffs, and there's a certain and there's an attitude that's the way it is with that organization. They're going to be there every year, and it's just a matter of how far they go. And they're still pretty pissed off they haven't won one since 2009. Yeah. So it's all plus. It's all plus going ahead. I mean, he comes back. And here's the thing. I hope that, we're in contention and we can keep him all year. I hope it's not a situation where we're not in contention and then we have to deal him again, because he's only on a 1-year deal.
Yeah. And I know, like, obviously in the clubhouse, they're all, let's make the playoffs. We're shooting for the playoffs. And that's what you want, obviously. And last year was the first year that every year I'm coming to my friends saying, hey, we're making the playoffs. I'm Mr. Optimistic, Mr. Hopeful. Yep. Last year was the first year I was like, this is not we're not shooting for the playoffs. We're shooting to get these guys to develop, to get experience, and to continue.
I recall that conversation.
Right. And this,
as painful as it was. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. But last year, like, it seemed painful, but it wasn't. Like, we got to see so many good things come from the guys that we've been wanting to see them. And
again, let me just interrupt you. I just go back. I mean, you can talk promise all you want until they start delivering. You can't get. You can sit there and ride hope all you want. Hope ain't winning the games. All right, they got to get out there and compete. Yeah, and you can't have guys. We had so many guys, and this is not just our team, but everybody in baseball. You get 2 strikes, you're still swinging out of your ass. Put the ball in play.
Yep.
I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, home run, strikeout, walk is where baseball is right now. And you wonder why, numbers, the national numbers are not good.
Yeah.
Regional numbers are better with the TV packages. I mean, the game has got to change. We got too much, dead time. And the Mariners led the American League in stolen bases. Were third overall in major leagues last year. I think that's a great part of this club. I hope they continue to do that. But, you could talk about, we've showed the list. And everybody gets excited about the list. The list means crapola if they don't do anything, and it's a different deal when they come up to this level, because what you're used to seeing on certain counts in the minor leagues, you're never going to see that up here. And when they find out what your weakness is, they're going to beat the dog out of it until you fix it. Yep. And then you go through the whole mental the emotional ride that you go through. And here's the other thing too. We only played 60 games last year. We're going to play 102 more games this year if everything goes right.
Mm-hmm.
So now that's a whole nother hurdle they have to get over. I mean, you're talking about the great talent that's coming. This guy's right here, blah, 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 blah. Dude, they didn't have to do cross-country travel last year. The young guys.
No.
You got to go to New York and you got to go to New York and play the Yankees 4 games in August. You got to play a good Toronto team, wherever the hell they're going to be playing. Dunedin or Buffalo. It probably won't be Toronto. The Rays are a pain in the ass. You got to play them. They're a pain in the freaking butt. They're pitching. They grow pitching down there. And this is what they gave away. What it called the boy to San Diego.
Blake.
Who else we got to play?
Local boy.
You got to play the White Sox. The White Sox are going to be a bitch. They can swing it.
And he is
right. They're going to be good. They have Moncada and Robert and Abreu and Anderson and Tony La Russa. He and Anderson, they seem like they're on the same page in that piece I saw the other day. Who else? Kansas City's better. Minnesota, you got to face Nelly and the boys. Hey, man, there's a lot of tests here. So you can sit here and talk about, hey, it's going to be first time for a lot of these cats getting on a big jet, flying, leaving on a jet plane, going to New York, going to Boston. First time going to Boston. The Red Sox aren't what they have been, but first time you play in Boston, that's a different experience. You've never seen a place like that. So we still got some growing pains here to do, man.
The one thing I will say, and I completely agree with that, Dave, because again, God knows we've been patient enough, but I mean, you talk about kind of like, look, we sign a big name or with a lot of promise, but it doesn't mean, shit until they actually perform. I remember, and Chris, to your point about you saying like last year was kind of the first year that I didn't go to my friend and it's like, this is the year, this is happening. Last year, a lot of us were fairly confident, like, all right, well, let's tough it out for another couple of years because this is the long-term strategy that Dipoto has laid out for us. And I remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, but sitting down watching the first game of last season, as abysmal and short as it was, Kyle Lewis hits one of the prettiest home runs I've ever seen. And he's got,
which one was that? The one that the pull shot to left or the one to right center?
It was the pull shot to left field,
right,
and
left center. Killed it.
And at whatever the Houston. That's right. And I remember thinking like, okay, like even something as simple as that, I mean, just gets me hyped up, and there's a spark of, call it hope. But you're absolutely right. And one thing that my point being is, of all the big names that we've signed, Kyle Lewis has been worth every ounce of time and cash that we've put in. So, I think given that, and boys, disagree with me if you'd like, but I mean, the Jerry Dipoto strategy, maybe sometime we'll come up with some sort of
Well, he was
for it.
Well, from my point of view, he was on the Angels from 2011 to 2014, and he came here in 15.
Prior to that, he was with Colorado.
And before that, yes, Colorado. But while in with the Angels, the biggest thing he obviously did was Mike Trout. And for a GM to really have enough time to have a plan and to be able to do that plan, it's going to be 4, 5, 6 years. He only had those 4 years in with the Angels. And so the Mariners fans, when I talked with them about this, they're always like, well, he didn't do anything in with the Angels. Like, well, he didn't have enough time. And so with the Seattle Mariners, he's been able to, the one thing I was curious about asking you, Dave, is what you've seen in the clubhouse around his philosophy of control the zone. And
Oh, they butt in. I don't think that. Yeah, I don't think you have to worry about that. And I think, and from a pitching standpoint, the pounders on God, they beat that, and they talk about it all the time. That's not an issue. Chris, I want to go. Max, I want to go back to your point about Kyle Lewis again. As great as he wins Rookie of the Year, and he played all 60 games. And I'm a huge fan of Kyle and his family. But again, he's looking at $162 this year.
Yeah.
And you look at that. September month, he fell off like a 150 something. And who was the other guy that was in contention for it? I think the Robert kid in the White Sox did the same thing. They both hit like $150 in September, and and that's
when
only
it matters
60 games.
most. Yeah, no, completely.
Yeah.
And to their to the Mariners' credit, the fact that I think that last Monday of the season, we're still mathematically alive, which is just mind blowing. Even now, I think that
I remember that.
Awesome. But it's a true test, man. It's a freaking marathon, and doing a 162 and trying to fight through injuries and everything. We're going to need depth. You need Fraley. We talked to Fraley yesterday, and he's been frustrated because he's been hurt the last couple of years. I mean, we need him. The depth. I'm looking forward to seeing the Taylor Trammell kid. I mean, I remember when he got drafted, supposedly a terrific player, a great athlete. Is he going to make the club? And Fraley, they keep talking about Fraley. They hold him in very high regard.
Yeah.
But stay healthy. Let me see what you can do. All right. So there's still a lot of question marks. I mean, on a big level, I'm excited as heck that the new season has started, but I'm also a realist.
Yep.
I mean, I don't want to,
as we've all grown to be.
Right. I don't mind. You're right. I don't mind being a cheerleader, but I want to do it with reality behind it too, just because, hey, we got good guys coming. Yeah. All right, fine. Let me see them play. I'm a lot older than you guys. I've seen a lot of phenoms come up and they have been worth squadoosh. Come on now. So, and that's the beauty of baseball. You have to live through the test of time, man.
Yep.
And that's why when the reverence for Griffey and all the all-timers, Mays, Aaron Jr., all those cats. That's why we hold them in the highest regard, because man, they post every freaking day.
Yep.
You got $162, I'll be there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I got a question for you, Dave, about Evan White. You mentioned how he was probably one of the best fielders you've ever seen. We saw it was his first season in the big leagues, so he was adjusting to that, major league pitching and all that. How do you think he handled that his first season, and where does he go into season 2?
Good head on no, not a good head, a great head on his shoulders. Terrific kid, and I think that's gonna. And he's got physical talent, obviously.
Yeah.
And
he can smack.
I don't want to harp on exit velocity, but he did have tremendous exit velocity. and as I always tell people, I said, "Yo, man, Granny and Bothell doesn't care about exit velo. Does he hit the ball consistently? That's all I need to know." Okay, that's what Grandma and Bothell saying. Okay, so that's and I agree with her. Yeah, he hit like $150. He's got to hit at least 250 for me.
Yeah,
especially in a power position. It's asking a lot. He's a kid, but I tell you what, he's a thing of beauty watching at first base. I mean, he's aggressive like a third baseman. Yesterday they posted some infield drills, and he's making plays, charging down the line in a bunt and making a throw to third. You're not supposed to be able to make that play as a first baseman. And he makes it look like, I got this. And then they had the other thing that Perry had this drill. Glad to have Perry Hill back. I can't wait to see him. But he put up these bullseye targets at first base and third base and charges, and he hit. And at second base, and the 3 or 4 throws I saw him make, it looked like he hit dead square in the middle every time. I mean, it's just crazy. So if he can, like I said, if he can hit, hey, I'm not going to ask for a lot. Hit me 265. Give me 28 and 90. I'm good.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
On the defensive side, and I did want to bring this up, but Perry Hill, he's obviously had a ginormous impact, and like what's he been able to do for it? Because Dylan Moore, for example, the first game he came up, those 3 errors back to back to back, I immediately, as a fan, hated him. And I was just like, what is this guy doing? And I couldn't believe it. But then last year he picked it up and he started doing.
Here's the thing that's happening, because I do this. I'm a professional. I've been doing this all my life, but I get a chance to go down like after that game, and I said, "Dude, Just keep your head up, you'll be all right.
Mhm.
And I did we didn't have a chance to do the caravan this year. We're doing everything on Zoom. And I did a one-on-one with him about a month ago. You probably find it on YouTube. And he said, I don't know if I brought that up, but his whole attitude is never say die. I love his attitude. And he's another guy. Hit the ball hard. He got some pop. He had 8-9 home runs last year. These pros are able to shake things a lot better than Joe Fan.
Mm-hmm.
And and sometimes I get mad at myself, and if I have a couple of screw ups or something, I speak too fast, step on my tongue, trip over my own tongue, I beat up on myself. But the one thing that's great, I love about baseball players and cornerbacks in the NFL, you F it up, you move, learn from it, and move on. He didn't have a nervous breakdown when he made those 3 errors. And he came back, played his ass off the rest of the way.
Yep.
So that's the separator. You got to remember that these guys are less than 1%, less than 0.5% probably of our population. These are even the worst guy on the worst team can kick your ass. Is better at his skill than you probably will ever be at yours.
Yep.
So I was just gratified to see his response to that. And I'll say this, it's an extraordinary group of likable, driven dudes. And in that regard, if they freaking win, you think you love the Mariners now. Dude, I'm telling you, they are some good people. I've been around. I've been doing this for a long time as a writer, broadcaster, the whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll be wearing everybody's uniform. I mean, it's such a good group. And you get over the freaking hump. And just at this point, I'd just be happy to say, ladies and gentlemen, your Seattle Mariners have reached the playoffs with this 5-4 win over the Oakland Athletics.
Absolutely.
Dave, I will be crying tears of
tears of joy, Dave. Tears of joy.
Be losing my
I'll be
mind.
here
And
for you and about 1 million other guys. Right?
Yeah.
They've come to my face just thinking about it. I remember I was at a bar 2 weeks ago talking to my buddy about the podcast, and then I started talking about the Mariners. He's like, "Dude, calm down. Like you're like you're about to cry." And I was like, "I'm just so passionate about this. Like I want it so bad. There's nothing more in the world I want. Nothing more in the world I want than to see the Mariners." When I was watching the Indians and the Cubs and their fans in the play and they're in the playoffs, I was just so happy for them. But at the same time, like I want this so bad. I want it so bad.
Imagine how I feel. I grew up in Philly. I've lived in New York most of my life. So I've seen the Phillies win a World Series back in 2008.
Yep.
I saw the Yankees all through the 90s. So the Mets get to the playoffs in 15, in 2000, win it in 86, should have gone 88 and 89. I've seen my share winning. I want a piece of that. And I was in the Yankee clubhouse when I was at CBS Local here in New York in 96, and they won their first pennant, won their first World Series since they won in 96. They hadn't won since 78. And I was talking to Don Zimmer. I wasn't even on camera. And Willie Randolph came up behind me. I didn't see him and poured a cold bottle of champagne. Never forgot it. And I said, I want to experience that with the Mariners.
Yeah.
That is the coolest feeling, to be going home in your car, you're just smelling like champagne and it feeling good. And the place is just rocking.
We'll be ready for it, Dave.
We are.
And we'll we're up on time here. Evan, I think you wanted to ask one more question, but do you have anything else, Evan? I think you were trying to fit something in.
No, I was just saying, going into year 2, Dave, I know you said you want to see the results first, and we saw that last year with Kyle Lewis in his first year. He broke out. Who on the M's, this year is kind of, that the average fan might not know, who might be able to take that next step and have a breakout year? Who are you excited to see?
I think as much as I like Dylan Moore and I like the fact that he can play multiple positions, I still think Shedlin can hit.
Yeah.
I liked what I saw at the
end. He's got a lot of pop.
Yeah, I liked what I saw at the end of 19. But here's the thing. Yeah, he almost put one in the Monongahela River in Pittsburgh, but that shouldn't be his entire game. No. I mean, he's got to spread the ball around the field. He can't just go up there, be swinging at his ass and trying to hit 50 home runs. I mean, I got a friend of mine who's a scout for the A's. He says, "Tell that kid I love him. I like his game, but tell him don't try to be jacking the ball all the time."
No.
And he can run a little bit. He can play second. And we were talking about Perry Hill. Those cats love Perry Hill. And America was J.P. Crawford told me, "Say, man, he basically turned my career around, saved my career." And so he's back. So that means a lot. But I would say him. And then I'm really excited to see Logan Gilbert, because everything you hear about him. Yeah, the most recent thing I heard was Service said he watched him throw a live BP. Well, it was just a bullpen. It wasn't a live BP. But, he's long. And when he finishes, it feels like he's on top of you, because he's like 6'5", 6'6", whatever, long arms, long legs. So, and he can't pick up, it's difficult to pick up the ball. So that could be very interesting as a guy that, does he break camp, or do we see him early? But I think we're going to see him. And and you got to have pitching, as you know, you got to have pitching depth. And that could really be something, man. It really could be special.
Cool.
And then the last question for you, Dave, is excuse me, kind of a prediction question. Earlier you said we're tallied around 75 wins or something this year. And I don't expect you to pull a Mike Blowers with predicting a call like you did with Mike Tuiasiopo.
That'll never happen again.
No. I'm curious, obviously you've talked with that about him. What's he said behind the scenes of making that call? What would it?
I think it's rigged, Dave. It had to have been rigged.
I didn't even know what was going on, because he had done it on a radio pregame show, and I had been upstairs in Toronto on TV, and I was wondering why after the home run he was laughing, and he got up and walked out of the booth, and I did the next inning, and then he came back and told me what the deal was, and then I heard the recording of Riz was just having a coronary, laughing so hard. So was Niehaus. I mean, it was just unbelievable. And they made Rachel Maddow ran on her show, and she knows nothing about sports. Yeah. And which I saw her, I met her about a year and a half ago. And she said, "Oh, that's right, you're that team where that guy made that prediction." I said, that was Mike Flowers. Yeah. I haven't talked to Mike. I haven't seen him. He's down in Zona right now. He's on the air with Rick, the San Diego game. But that was a freak show. And it was, and everything hit positively. And Niehaus always used to say, make a prediction. If it comes true, it's great. Everybody remember. If it doesn't come true, nobody's going to care. They'll forget. So he, that 1 in a million, and he nailed it.
So with that, what's your 1 in a million prediction for the Mariners this year?
Record wise.
I'm not going there. Yes, come on. Give me a one. Give me, I'm not going to be. It's like I'm not going to be held accountable for that. No way. Hey, I'm calling the game. Yeah. And I'm rooting like you guys, and I don't, I catch enough grief. I don't need anybody getting.
Well, Dave, you're great at what you do, and we appreciate you taking time. And this has been a lot of fun. You seem like a great guy, just like you see him on television, and can't wait to hear you and Mike up in the booth.
Appreciate it, fellas. You guys have a good day, man. Thanks for the time.
Thank you.
Yourself.
All right, you bet. All right, take care.
The interview with Dave Sims was just
awesome. It was awesome. I mean, for us to be able to have, we just obviously started this podcast, and for us to be able to get Dave Sims as our first guest onto the show, I mean, that just blew my mind. And then for how easy he was to talk with, and how he was just freaking easy to talk with on the podcast. And he kept answering our questions and diving into them, and he came back to some of your questions and made sure to answer all of them. I mean, what a guy to have as the first guest. It couldn't get better.
Look, like the cool thing about interviewing him and just having that conversation is, again, normally you look at Dave Sims and the rest of those commentators, right? And again, they're stuck up in that booth for 9 innings of an entire baseball game. And you think you get to know a guy or gal, and I don't know, just having a conversation with him one-on-one was pretty funny. I mean, he also brought up.
Sorry, you go.
Well, I just was going to say, brought up some valid points too. Like, what was it that he had mentioned kind of where he wants to see Evan White's batting average, and he had these down to, the numbers down to, a pinpoint.
Well, he was saying he wanted
65, 28 dingers and 90 RBIs, and that's an all-star season.
That's his prediction. That's Dave's prediction. So I know in the interview, I tried getting Dave to bite on the prediction, and he did say, who was he talking about? He was talking about somebody said like a phrase that was like, if you're gonna, I think Dave Niehaus. It was Dave. Yeah, Dave Niehaus told Dave Sims the phrase like, if you're gonna make a prediction and you're wrong, so be it. But if you're right, it could be crazy. And that's when I led to my question asking Dave, like, what's your crazy prediction for the year? And then he goes, oh, I'm not setting myself up for that.
I think with Dave is just like, he's been through so much heartbreak, as a Mariner fan, that, he's had those moments where the Mariners were so close to making the playoffs, and so he's just trying to live it, being as realistic as possible. So.
And what I think is nuts too, like, because Dave was going back, and like, as I feel like most broadcasters do this or have the ability to, they go back and like they can state specifics of exactly where we're at the end of the season. Like when I brought up the San Diego game, and then he goes in and dives into how close we were to the last like Monday of the game of the year, and saying like our exact record or something like that. It's just like, those guys like have such a good memory, and their knowledge stays. It's crazy. It's like, I'm like, God damn, I could never remember that much stuff, but I don't know. It's just, God damn, what a guy.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I think the other highlight that, we all had a good laugh at was even though again, he wasn't in the booth with us at that time, but the Matt Tuiasosopo home run call. I mean, it's just when you're partnering with someone like Mike Blowers that just has that ability, and maybe at some point I'd love to sit down with Mike Blowers too. He seems like a level-headed dude, and he's also played the game. So maybe that's something that we can bring on later. But
we'll reach out to Dave, see what Dave can do, see if he can. Dave, if you're watching this, Dave, you can help us maybe get Mike on the show. We'd appreciate that. But no, we do appreciate you as well, obviously.
Absolutely. Well, the other thing I wanted to say, before we wrap up our first episode is, we had our first glimpse of perhaps our three sluggers back to back recently, didn't we?
Back to back, baby.
And correct me, I've been kind of doing a few things here and there. It was Haniger, Seager, and who's the third?
Ty France.
Yeah.
Ty France is the guy that we got from San Diego when we traded Austin Nola, and so that was one of the big key pieces. That's who. I mean, Ty France is honestly probably going to be the guy that may take over third base when Seager is out. Because this year with Ty France, what they're going to have him doing is just playing all around. They're going to make sure he's batting almost every single day, so he'll at least be a DH. But they're going to also try and push him around all kind of. I think they're going to try and stay in the infield with him, and then Dylan Moore can be more utilized, similar as utility, but infield and outfield. I don't think Ty France has the outfield ability.
Well, you bring up another point that we'll probably cover in a later episode, but now we're starting to have the conversation that Seager is probably going to be wrapping things up here in the next couple of years.
Well, his contract's up next year.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So we'll see what happens. I mean, and obviously, as we touched on a little bit in terms of Kevin Mathers. I mean, what he said is about Seager, and what pissed Seager off was, or what offended him, was that he's probably not. Mather said he probably wasn't going to get re-signed next year, just because he's expensive and he's old. I love Seager. Seager's great. He's an all-time Mariner. He's been an all-time Mariner, I guess. But I mean, when time comes for teams and players to.
Yeah, and I think it's similar to what we saw with D. Gordon and how he was a veteran in the club a few years ago, and he
absolutely
led the team from a leadership standpoint too, and showed them how to be professionals and took them under their wing. Seager's obviously done that with Kyle Lewis. I've seen some growth in that department, and so and I think Seager's realizing it too, that hey, this team's going in a new direction. They're up and coming. I don't want to stand in the way of that. That would be kind of selfish on me. And so I think it's coming from a mutual standpoint. Seager's got his money. He's got paid. That's Seager's not a factor at all. So
Seager's got money.
I think maybe he could just find a role on a.
Dude, what if he became a coach?
Team,
No, what if he became a coach?
Yeah.
Seager can coach.
Follow Edgar's footsteps.
That's what not Kikuchi. Excuse me.
Well,
not Kikuchi.
Who are you talking about?
Who's the? Oh, this is gonna. I'm an idiot. Oh God, it's Ashi Iwakuma. He just became a coach, I believe.
For who?
For the M's.
What?
He's helping with pitching.
we've got Ichiro, we've got Edgar, and now we've got Iwakuma.
Yeah, I was watching an interview with I don't know, it was at like midnight the other night, and I was pretty tired, but I couldn't sleep at the same time. Weird, I know. But I was watching interviews, and something about Topoto that's saying when they rehired Isashi Akuma, and like they like let him know like when he didn't come back that like, hey, when you're ready, we have a role for you. We'll make something for you. And months down the road, whenever he ended up becoming ready, he texted Jared. He's like, hey, let's get the ball rolling on this. I want to start helping. And so, I mean, that's one cool thing it seems like Jerry's doing as well, as keeping like some people like I've seen on Twitter and shit, they hate it when we like bring Ichiro back and like, oh, this is a publicity stunt. Like stupid comments like that, in my opinion, but it's not a publicity stunt. Ichiro's the goddamn GOAT, and he's an all-time man. Why would you not want him as a coach? I don't get the people who are against that at all. It's just stupid. But Jerry's doing that thing. It seems he wants to have the people who were successful in the organization come back and coach and continue kind of recycling through and keep helping the guys learn and shit. And so I love it. I'm all about it.
Well, I agree. Like you come to think of it, like there's got to be a strategic aspect to that and again, like the Mariners, in the grand spectrum of things, right? Like we haven't been around as long as the established teams out there, like the Yankees and the Red Sox and the Cubs, whatever you want to call it. But I mean, we're again, and we've talked about this at the beginning of this episode with Dave, we're reaching a point where, we've got to show something for the effort that we've put. We have to have something to show for it.
We got to prove it.
And to have our all-time great legends sticking around with us, I think it goes a long way to say like, look, like the Ichiro, Edgar, they put their blood, sweat, and tears into this team. Didn't get the recognition that they deserve.
Well, not immediately.
Yeah, I mean, when we're talking about trophies and rings, right?
True. Yeah. You're not talking individual. Okay.
No. Very much.
Yeah, I was like, come on now, Edgar Martinez again, fucking Hall of Fame. Like, yeah, he got his recognition.
Well, what I'm saying, and Griffey too, it's like these guys deserve rings.
Yeah.
And at the very least, if they're not going to get a ring by playing, as a player, they can at the very least be part of that story from the dugout.
Yes.
So, God help them. Godspeed to them.
Godspeed, baby. Godspeed.
I figure our listeners are probably tired of listening to us talk. We'll save some more banter for the next episode, guys. Glad to have you here. We'll let you know when we release the next episode. But
next Monday, baby. Monday
Monday.
Mojo, baby.
That's how we do it.
We'll be with you guys. Yeah, we'll be with you guys for every Monday till the end of the season. So hopefully that goes into October. That'd be freaking awesome if we were with you in October, huh? On a Monday in October, we were doing a podcast because the Mariners are still in it. Oh my God!
Quote me now. If we have an episode air in October. I'll show up to the call with champagne and
if we have,
we're celebrating.
You guys probably don't get. Sure. I mean, yeah, they probably don't care about this, but
that's what I care about. Anyways,
exactly.
Excited to be with you guys from here on out every Monday for the rest of the season. Go M's.